That night, the sky was at war. Lightning tore through the darkness, like jagged knives, and the wind howled with a fury that bent even the oldest trees. The streets were nearly empty. Those with a home had already locked their doors. Those without, well, they prayed for a miracle. And it was in the heart of that storm that she appeared. A young girl, alone, walking slowly down the muddy road, her head covered by a soaked jacket, arms crossed to shield herself from the biting cold. Each step felt heavy, not like someone running away, but like someone who'd given up on running long ago. She walked as if there was nowhere left in the world for her to go, as if that stretch of ground between the thunder and oblivion was her only choice. That's when he saw her, from the porch of his old, isolated house, with the faint glow of a lantern lighting his weary but watchful face. A solitary man, private, haunted by too many ghosts to trust anyone. Yet, there was something about that girl that made him unable to just close the curtain and pretend he hadn't seen her. Maybe it was the way she stared into nothingness, or maybe it was the way that nothingness seemed to stare back at her. He took a deep breath, hesitated for a moment, and opened the gate. The story that began that night, in that storm, wasn't just about shelter, or even kindness. It was about two broken souls crossing paths on a night when anything could happen, and neither of them had any idea what was about to unfold. Would you have opened that gate? If this story's already got you hooked, buckle up, because what happened next would change everything. Love stories like this? Hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you tales that grip you till the end. The door creaked open slowly. The man stood there for a moment, watching the girl, drenched and shivering, her eyes searching for any sign of warmth. Without a word, he grabbed a thick towel and held it out to her. "You're shaking. You need to dry off," he said, his voice rough, heavy with exhaustion. She took the towel hesitantly, avoiding his gaze. The house was simple, lit only by the faint flicker of a fireplace, casting dancing shadows on worn walls. The storm's roar outside felt distant, but a sense of danger still hung in the air. "Hungry?" he asked, breaking the silence. She shook her head, curled up in herself. But after a few minutes, as the smell of smoke and burning wood mingled with the fire's warmth, her guard softened. "Maybe a little," she whispered. He nodded and walked off. Before disappearing down the hallway, he glanced over his shoulder. "There's stuff here, but don't touch anything I didn't give you." She watched him leave, his slow footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. Alone, she moved closer to the fire, rubbing her arms under the towel. The tension in the room was thick, like the dampness still clinging to her skin. Minutes later, he returned with a bowl of hot soup and a chunk of bread. He handed it over in silence, then sat in a worn armchair across the room, watching her openly. "What's your name?" he asked, as she brought the spoon to her lips. She paused. "Lily. How old are you, Lily?" 15. "You live around here?" She nodded but said nothing. "And your parents? Do they know where you are?" "Not exactly," she replied, dodging his eyes. "You shouldn't be out in a storm like this, with a blackout. There's always dangerous people lurking. I've seen what can happen." His voice hardened. "I lost everything because of it." She stared down at her soup. "I didn't know," she mumbled. "Didn't know. Or don't want to tell," he grumbled, his eyes still on her. She didn't answer. The spoon froze mid-air for a second, then kept moving. Silence settled between them again, heavy with unspoken assumptions. When she finished eating, he stood. "I'm going to the shed to grab more firewood before it gets too dark. Stay here. Don't touch anything." She nodded. But as soon as he stepped through the door, the sound of the handle clicking behind him felt louder than it should. Alone again, she sat by the fire, as if debating whether to stay or run. But something in the house called to her. Something strange. Her eyes wandered across the room until they landed on a half-open door at the back. Heart racing. She grabbed a candle from the mantel and lit it, shielding the flame with her trembling hand. Each step toward the darkness echoed in her chest. She crossed the threshold slowly, as if stepping over an invisible line. And then she saw it. What was in that silent room made her blood run cold. Her eyes widened. Her suspicion wasn't just paranoia. That was exactly what she'd feared. And in that moment, she knew something was deeply wrong with this man. The candle's flickering light cast dancing shadows as Lily crept forward. The floorboards creaked under her feet, louder than the storm outside. The door opened easily, revealing a cramped, windowless room where the air felt colder and heavier. For a moment, she thought she'd stepped into a child's bedroom. Shelves lined the walls, filled with old toys arranged with unsettling precision. Teddy bears, toy cars, porcelain dolls. But they were too clean, too perfectly placed. Each item felt like part of some eerie ritual. In the corner, a corkboard displayed dozens of photos of the same little girl, maybe 5 or 7 years old. In some, she smiled. In others, she just posed. No sadness in her face, but something about the sheer number of photos felt unsettling, like the obsession lay in their quantity, not their emotions. Next to the board sat a collection of women's items: half-empty perfume bottles, gold hairpins, a broken necklace, dried-out lipsticks, a brush with strands of hair caught in its bristles. A mismatched collection, but meticulously arranged, as if he'd gathered mementos from different people, or different victims. In the center of the room, on a table draped with a cloth, sat an open box filled with small belongings: children's hair clips, colorful bracelets, a tiny chain with a star-shaped pendant. She stepped closer without realizing it, drawn by something beyond reason. Her fingers brushed the star pendant. For some reason, it stirred something in her. It was beautiful, but felt personal and expensive, something with real value. In that moment, survival instinct kicked in over curiosity or fear. She glanced back, heard only silence. Without thinking, she slipped the chain into her jacket pocket and blew out the candle with a quick puff. In her haste, she didn't close the door. Back in the main room, she sat by the fire, struggling to steady her breathing. She was still trembling, but now it wasn't just from the cold. Minutes later, the door burst open. He returned, carrying 2 damp logs. He placed them in the fireplace without a word, his eyes scanning her position, as if something had shifted. "Did you touch anything?" he asked, blunt, no pretense. "No. I just stayed here." He didn't reply, just stared at her longer than felt comfortable. "I saw you looking toward the back of the house," he said, flat. "That door was open." She faltered. "I don't think so. I didn't notice." The silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was menacing. The crackle of burning wood was the only sound for a while. "There's places in this house that are mine alone," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "And when I say, 'don't touch,' it's not a suggestion." Lily nodded, trying to seem unfazed. But her fingers tightened around the pendant hidden in her pocket. The air had shifted completely. This man wasn't just a stranger anymore. He was someone hiding heavy secrets. Secrets that might involve that little girl in the photos. She knew she couldn't spend another night there, but she also knew leaving would be harder than coming in. Whatever was hidden in that house, she was part of it now. The fire still burned, but its warmth no longer reached Lily. The air was thick with something heavier than smoke: distrust, fear, the certainty that something was about to break. "I shouldn't have let you in," he said finally. "You're not just some lost kid. You came here to steal, didn't you? Thought I wouldn't notice?" "Steal?" She stepped back, heart pounding. "You're crazy. I just needed a place to crash for the night." "Liar. You went through my stuff. Touched what I told you to leave alone." "And why shouldn't I?" she shot back, her voice trembling with anger and fear. "What's in there, huh? Are you some kind of killer? Do you murder kids and keep their stuff as trophies?" He stepped forward but didn't yell. His calm was more threatening than any shout. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? Then explain it," she snapped, eyes blazing. "Who's the girl in those pictures? Why do you have toys, perfumes, jewelry, like they're mementos of victims?" He went silent, but his clenched jaw, his eyes locked on hers, said everything. "Sometimes people do what they have to keep something alive," he muttered, almost to himself. "Even if it looks wrong." Lily narrowed her eyes. "Is that a confession?" He shook his head slowly. "You remind me of someone. Someone who lied just as easily." She froze. "And you? You remind me of the kind of guy my mom ran from every time she said we had to move." Silence. The tension was unbearable now. One of them was going to snap, or both. "I'm leaving," Lily said, firm. "Do it," he replied, "and I hope whatever's out there likes you." She swallowed hard. "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning." She spun around, grabbed her backpack, and yanked the door open. But what she saw outside might have been worse than anything inside that house. Lily flung the door open with a gasp. A scream caught in her throat as two shadowy figures blocked her way. Both were ragged, soaked, and startled to see someone in the house. David, who'd gone to the bedroom to check on his things, rushed back at the noise. He stopped in the doorway, eyes wide, as he saw the older man holding a machete near Lily's neck. "That's that creep, David," the man said, his voice bitter, eyes heavy. "Always holed up in this old house, barely talks to anyone. Only person he chats with is Stacy from the corner store, probably hooking up with her." The younger guy turned slowly toward Lily, his gaze fixed on her. "Hey, you. Aren't you that girl from yesterday? You ran from there too, didn't you?" David frowned, taking a deep breath. "Marco, weren't you locked up? What are you doing here? Just out of jail and already causing trouble? And you brought your kid into this?" Marco looked drunk, his eyes glassy. "Didn't know you were home, David. Thought you'd be at work by now." He grinned crookedly, his fingers tightening on the machete's handle. David stayed calm, though the tension was electric. "Marco, put that down. We don't need this." Marco stepped closer, the blade glinting in the dim light, the threat clear. "We just wanted to grab some stuff you wouldn't miss. But I think we found something way more valuable." His cold eyes locked on Lily. She froze as the blade's icy edge grazed her neck. Sliding slowly, like he was savoring her fear, the silence was suffocating. Lily could barely breathe, the machete's edge brushing her skin. Marco's stare was empty, unhinged, like he wasn't all there. David, frozen for a split second, watched with his jaw clenched and fists tight. The kid, standing back, looked uneasy. He fidgeted, glancing from his dad to Lily, lost. David caught his hesitation. "Let her go, Marco," he said, keeping his voice steady. "This doesn't have to go there. You can walk away now. I won't call the cops." Marco let out a low, cynical laugh. "Always the good guy, huh, David? But you're not calling the shots here." David edged toward the fireplace. Marco's eyes narrowed. "Don't even think about it." Just then, the kid tripped over a log David had brought in. The sharp thud made Marco whip his head around. That was the opening. David lunged at him in a flash. They crashed to the floor, grappling in a raw, brutal fight. The machete skittered away. Punches, elbows, muffled yells. The kid shrank back, terrified. Eyes wide, he looked at his dad, then the door, and bolted, vanishing into the night. Lily stood paralyzed, watching Marco overpower David, pinning him to the floor with hands around his throat. "You bastard," Marco growled, his face twisted with rage. Desperate, Lily scanned the room. Her eyes landed on a log by the fireplace. She ran to it, grabbed it with both hands, and without thinking, swung it at Marco's head with a sickening crack. Marco crumpled sideways, out cold, or worse. David coughed, gasping, still on the floor. Lily dropped the log, hands shaking. What had she just done? Tears welling, chest heaving, she snatched her backpack and bolted through the open door, not looking back. The darkness swallowed her. But even as she ran, she swore she heard something behind her. A low, persistent sound, like Marco was still trying to get up. 3 days of silence followed. The house felt emptier after the chaos. David barely slept. The yells, the fight, the crack of the log replayed in flashes every time he closed his eyes. The morning after the attack, he called the police. Marco was found stumbling down the road, barely conscious, locked up again. His kid, shaken and in shock, was sent back to the shelter he stayed at when his dad was behind bars. David didn't say much. He didn't mention the girl in his house. Didn't say who hit Marco. Just confirmed what the cops saw. Break-in, threat, self-defense. Done. But her... Lily had vanished like she'd never existed. The girl was gone that night, taking only her backpack and something else. David noticed it the next day when he did what he'd done every day for 10 years in that room. The star-shaped necklace, always kept in the box, was missing. On the afternoon of the third day, he was fixing a broken chair when he heard a knock. 3 short raps. He stopped, took a deep breath, and opened the door. She was there, thinner, eyes sunken, hands tucked into her sweater sleeves. But what caught his eye was what she held, the necklace, the little silver star. It never left that room. Until now. She held it out, almost guilty. I was gonna keep it. I took it without thinking, thought it was pretty. But I couldn't. It felt important. And it's not mine. I don't have the right. David didn't answer right away. He just took the necklace slowly, like he was reclaiming something lost for years. You hungry? He asked. She nodded. They went inside in silence. In the kitchen, he warmed up some bread in the oven. Leftover coffee. She ate slowly, like chewing took effort. After a few minutes, he broke the silence. Is Lily your real name? She stopped, swallowed hard. No, it was my mom's name. I started using it after I ran away. Didn't want anyone knowing my real name. What is it? She hesitated. Then whispered, almost inaudibly, Emily. Silence. David just nodded, respecting the weight of that name. And then she started to talk. She told him she lost her mom at 9, never knew her dad, bounced through foster homes until she was 13. Some were worse than jail. The last one, in a nearby town, was where things fell apart. She ran after something she couldn't bring herself to say. Just said, I couldn't stay. She'd come to town the week before, slept one night in a church shelter. When they said social services would pick her up in the morning, she ran again. Wandered aimlessly until she found David's house. She apologized, her voice low and sincere. Thank you for letting me in. I don't always meet good people out there, and I'm sorry for taking the necklace. It seemed so important to you. David stayed quiet, his eyes on the necklace in his hand. It was my daughter's, he started, voice rough with memory. Her name was Emily. She was only 7 when it happened. He took a deep breath, fighting to keep steady. I worked nights at the factory in town. Wasn't home to protect them. It was a storm like that one. He closed his eyes for a moment, like he was back there. My wife and daughter died that night. The necklace, this little silver star, was hers. I kept everything of hers in that room, like a shrine. It's the only piece of them I have left. Emily swallowed hard, feeling his silent pain. David went on, calmer now. Since then, this house has been my fortress and my prison. Never let anyone in. Never wanted anyone touching her things. He looked at her, a mix of sorrow and defiance. You get what that means? The silence was heavy, almost choking. He gripped the necklace tighter, knowing this moment was a turning point. And that night, his kindness made her believe there was still good in the world. But more than that, she saw something in him. A chance for redemption, for helping someone, and being helped in return. And that was just the start. What comes next is even more surprising. Months passed since that night that changed everything. David had given Emily a temporary home, a safe haven from the system, from the past she was trying to leave behind. Social services was involved, and plans for permanent guardianship were still being worked out. But for the first time in years, both felt like they were building something real. David opened up to the town. Slowly, he stepped out of his shell. He started talking to Stacy, the kind-hearted woman who ran the corner store, someone who'd always believed in him. Quiet meetups and shy smiles sparked a connection that hinted at a less lonely life. Emily settled in. The room that was once his daughter's shrine had changed. David donated most of the keepsakes, holding on to only what carried true sentimental value. He realized it was time to move forward, to let the pain rest and keep the memories alive in his heart. Not a room. Marco's past stayed behind. He was still locked up, paying for his mistakes. His son, free from that chaos, was put in a youth rehab program, a chance to rebuild his life away from his father's toxic shadow. In that house, where silence once weighed heavy, there was now room for hope. David and Emily didn't have all the answers, but they had one crucial thing: a shot at a fresh start. And sometimes, that's all anyone really needs. Sometimes you open the door for someone and end up setting yourself free. And you? Would you have opened the door that night? If you made it this far, drop key in the comments and let us know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it with anyone who loves stories with endings that make you believe in tomorrow.